What's going on YouTube? So just last year we sampled the all-new Hyundai IONIQ 6, a unique electric vehicle with unique styling.
But now we're back in Kentucky with the latest 2024 model to extensively test it out over 7 days.
So with growing competition, is this the EV sedan you want in your garage? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so let's get things started here under the hood with the spec dump. Now obviously this is an electric vehicle, so what you actually find under the hood is a very small frunk. This is going to be 0.5 cubic feet, so it's actually not enough to fit the charger, which we have in the trunk, so keep that in mind. I'm not sure what you could use that for. Nevertheless, let's talk about some of those performance metrics. So there's going to be several different battery configurations, as well as rear-wheel drive and dual-motor all-wheel drive. This version here is going to be a 77.4 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. Dual-motor all-wheel drive is making 320 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque.
As far as the range on this model, it comes in at 270 miles for the Limited. And of course, we'll be briefing you on all of the charging information later on in the test drive, as well as taking it out on that test drive to get stuff like our signature sound level reading so we can see how quiet this electric IONIQ 6 is.
But before we get into all of that, this is a very uniquely styled vehicle. So let's close up the hood and get into the exterior. So you'll certainly notice right off the bat, this IONIQ 6 really stands out because it just doesn't have that typical shape that a normal sedan has. It actually doesn't really look anything like the IONIQ 5 either, because that one's kind of boxy. This one here is totally aerodynamic inspired. So Hyundai really kind of just let that shape the overall look of this vehicle, and that's why it gets a 0.22 coefficient of drag, which is one of the most aerodynamic vehicles in the entire world. Everything is very sloped and slanted. Up here in the front, you'll notice that this is entirely sealed off, and this section here actually will open up when it needs airflow, but close when it does not. Now, the other unique element, of course, is the headlights as well. They have a smooth finish that kind of wraps around. But this is where you kind of draw the connection to the IONIQ 5 because you continue to have the pixel theme. So full projector LED headlights are standard. You also have the pixel, parametric pixel daytime running light and turn signal indicator, which is amber right there below, and IONIQ 6 is inside the headlight itself. Now, as we walk around to the rear design, this is perhaps even bolder than the front design. Obviously, first and foremost, the shaping is for aerodynamic purposes, but they've done a lot to make this really stand out.
Yeah, I mean, driving this around in Kentucky, I mean, granted it is Kentucky after all, but people have been looking at this like it's an absolute spaceship for the past 7 days, that is for sure. Now, let's go ahead and break down some of those individual design elements. And Drew's going to hop inside so we can check out our taillight elements. Now, one of the main elements that you're going to see is just the taillight itself. As you can see, it goes all the way across the entire back. It's going to have that unique pixel theme that the Hyundai electric products are known for. We also have an integrated spoiler here that houses your brake light as well, once again with that pixel theme. Now, as we head into reverse, you will notice that we have an LED reverse light down here at the bottom, kind of where an exhaust pipe would be on a gasoline vehicle, and we have an LED turn signal indicator. So all of your elements are LED. I like that. It's definitely a needed element for something futuristic like this. And as far as other design elements, of course, this is all going to be finished in a nice shiny black plastic.
Now moving on to the wheels, you will have 18-inch alloys on your lower end trims and then 20-inch alloys on your upper trims, including this Limited trim. Dare I say, this is actually the most conventional part of the exterior here with this IONIQ 6 because you don't have any crazy aero covers or anything like that, just really good looking contrast alloy wheels. Now as it rides above, you have your mirrors, of course. These are going to also have the pixel lights up here. You're also going to have standard heating, standard blind spot monitoring, and this Limited will be power folding as well.
Now here at the side profile of the IONIQ 6, you're certainly going to see that aerodynamically inspired design. And honestly, here at the side, I think this might even be the wildest part of the design because it just looks like nothing else on the road. Now, as far as overall vehicle length, it's 191.1 inches long, which is about 9 inches longer than the IONIQ 5 for reference. I also want to point out you do have flush mount door handles. Drew will talk about that a little bit heading into the inside. And as far as your safety systems are concerned, you are going to get all 4 of them as standard equipment on the IONIQ 6. Additionally, you get Highway Drive Assist 1.0 as standard, and Highway Drive Assist 2.0 is an option on your higher end trim levels. But guys, that wraps up the exterior design of this model. Let's go ahead and see what the inside's like over 7 days. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the interior. First, of course, we'll take a quick look at the key fob. As you'd expect, smart entry is standard. This is the latest Hyundai key fob that kind of is shaped like the Hyundai emblem. You also have the remote start system. The Limited here has Smart Park located on the side, and then the SEL and Limited both get Hyundai's digital key system, so you can use your phone as a key. Now pay attention as I walk up to the vehicle, because this does have the flush mount door handles, but as you can see, it senses your approach, and that's when the door handle itself will go ahead and pop out, as well as the mirrors fold out. And then to get inside, you're just going to grab right behind there. There's some little finger indentions to make it easy to grab a hold of. And there is the interior. Just like with the exterior, we have a pretty futuristic space inside, especially when you see it at night. But before we get into individual details, let's talk about the seats. So the base model will come with cloth seats. However, the SEL and the Limited will both come with this leatherette you see here. This is a pretty realistic feeling leatherette. As you can see, you got some nice stitching details throughout. You have more of that pixel theming up there at the top. And in terms of color options, we just have the black, obviously, but you also have the choice between gray or even a dark green and gray two-tone. The seats themselves are going to be 8-way power adjusting. We have 2-way lumbar support. But the thing I do want to point out about this IONIQ 6 is that this does not have the full relaxation seat like the IONIQ 5, so you can't extend out a leg rest and fully recline while you are charging. All right, so let's go ahead and climb inside. Now that I'm fully inside of the cabin, the first thing I want to do is just look around at the overall cabin materials. So let's start out over here with our door trim. As you can see, very unique look to this. One of the things that stands out is, of course, we actually don't have buttons over here. So you don't control the windows over here, you control the windows in the center console. But the reason for this is design. So you can kind of see through here, we have this ridged plastic going on, and actually Hyundai is projecting ambient lighting up through here. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but this is going to be a hard touch plastic because of that. As we go to the upper dash, this is going to be a soft touch plastic. We have these kind of cool winged elements, which are made of a faux aluminum. And then down here on the center tunnel, this is going to be a soft touch plastic with a nice texture. Everything does feel nice and solid. Let's go ahead and fire it up with the standard push button start. Now that it's fired up, let's go ahead and dig into the gauge cluster first of all. Now obviously this is a dual screen arrangement. This side is going to be 12.3 inches, and it is reconfigurable based on your different drive modes. Obviously the graphics are going to be different for an electric vehicle, but I do want to point out that you cannot get a head-up display on the IONIQ 6 like you can on the IONIQ 5. Now pulling back to the steering wheel, we have a cool 2-spoke design. Our little pixels here actually do light up, which makes me want to go ahead and just talk about the ambient lighting that I was mentioning earlier. I went ahead and pulled that up over here on the display just to mention it very briefly. Like I said, it's very interactive inside of this car, so the thing that you can do is actually go into 2 different zones of ambient lighting. So you have upper and lower. This actually does change with the speed that you're driving, so as you drive more intensely, it's going to actually get brighter and brighter. So it's really cool and interactive. You also have animations when you get inside of the vehicle, so I've really enjoyed that aspect of it. But as far as the steering wheel itself, obviously this is going to be a nice steering wheel, manual tilt and telescoping, and it is heated on the Limited as well. Now, let's take a look at interior storage. We'll start out underneath the center console here. Inside of here, you're going to find 7 of our donuts. So this is Car Confections after all. We like to do our signature donut test since that is our emblem. And we can fit 7 inside of here, which is pretty decent for a sedan. As you can see, there's a couple of USB ports down there as well. You have a little bit of storage in front of that. Now, as I was mentioning earlier, your traditional controls from the door are actually going to be over here in the middle. Then you've got your 2 cup holders. Then you've got a nice wireless phone charging pad, which, by the way, is grippy. So even when you accelerate hard, it will stay in place. And then finally, you have this huge center pass-through. This thing is absolutely enormous. You could stick a ton of stuff down here. Now, all of that is, of course, made possible by a column-mounted electronic shifter. We've seen this actually across a lot of Hyundais at this point. It's their new shifter, but IONIQ 6 is one of the first to have it. You just twist up for drive, down for reverse. And when you go into reverse, this Limited is going to come with a 360-degree camera system. This is a very premium camera because we have the full drone effect camera, so this is very helpful when parking or going through a tight drive-through. Then just press the P on the end for park. You also have an electronic parking brake located over here on the other side of the steering wheel. Now let's move on to our climate controls. So those are going to be located here on this touch-sensitive panel. You're going to have a standard dual-zone automatic climate system, and you can pretty easily adjust your temperature up and down right through there. Pushing that button is what will bring up your menu for your heated and ventilated seats. Heated seats are going to be standard equipment, and then ventilated seats are going to be included on the Limited trim level. I do want to pause here, though, and take a second to complain about this because that's kind of a lot of steps there to turn on your heated seats. And this all being touch sensitive is kind of strange because, as you can see right here above that, we have all of these audio controls as physical controls, but all of this is touch sensitive. I feel like I use this stuff a lot more than I use this stuff. I haven't touched any of these buttons over here this entire week, but I'm always fiddling with this heated seat, which takes multiple steps. So I wish Hyundai would just kind of move those up here to physical buttons. Now, let's take a look at the display itself. As I mentioned earlier, this is a dual display setup, so this side is also going to be 12.3 inches. We have some unique white graphics because this is the IONIQ model. And in terms of what you can expect in functionality, you have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but this is an older style system, so it is still needing a USB cable to connect those things. Some of the Hyundais that have just recently came out have a new system that has wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but that has not quite yet made it to the IONIQ lineup. You also have built-in navigation, and you have some EV dedicated applications for finding chargers and things like that. Now up top, we have an auto-dimming mirror, 3 home-like universal remotes. You have some touch capacitive LED lighting up at the top. And then we also have a traditional style sunroof, but it does have a power sunshade. And as you can see, unlike a lot of EVs, it does open up.
Now, sitting back here in the IONIQ 6, my oh my, you have a lot of space. That's really the first thing anyone notices when they sit back here is, wow, there is a ton of legroom. So what is that actual legroom figure? Well, we're sitting at about 0.3 inches of legroom, 39.2 inches of headroom. So those are very spacious figures. Obviously, this is going to be plenty of room for someone who's my size. I'm 5'9". This seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8" for reference. And here at Car Confections, we want to provide all the measures for you. So we want to see how much knee room we have. And as you can see, we are sitting at a foot. Honestly, it might even be a little bit over a foot of knee space, so tons and tons of room. We also have a really nice flat floor through here, and the middle seat is quite wide as well. So honestly, you could really do a lot back here. Take what you wish from that, but you could do a lot back here. There is a ton of space, and it is nice and flat. Now, as far as here in the center, we do have 2 vents, and then we also have 2 USB-C ports, and we have a little storage cubby underneath. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that you do have a really cool household style outlet right through here. So you can actually slide this open and you have a plug that you can plug your like MacBook in or whatever, and it's nice and down here. I do really like that you're not going to have to go through the center to get your cord, you can just do it right through here. So Hyundai really has maximized the amount of work that you can do in the back. And I also want to point out that you cannot get heated rear seats on this model. Now, as far as the door trim is concerned, we do have a hard touch door trim all through here, but you're going to have that cool ambient lighting system as well. We have traditional window switches here in the back, which I think is a little bit interesting. And then down here at the bottom, you have a bottle storage. All right, and so let's go ahead and walk up to the cargo area. Now, this is a sedan after all, so that does mean we're going to have a traditional trunk setup. Now, we do have a power trunk, actually as standard equipment on every version of the IONIQ 6, so that's certainly a nice feature Hyundai's throwing in. And as far as the space back here, 11.2 cubic feet is your maximum. That is not a ton of space, especially if you're comparing it to maybe a gas vehicle, maybe like a Hyundai Sonata, for instance, is going to have more cargo capacity than this, and certainly the IONIQ 5 is going to have a lot more practicality than this IONIQ 6 when it comes to cargo capacity, as you would expect. You can still fold the seats down. They do fold 60-40 split, and we're going to get our tape measure back out again, because at Car Confections we want to get those measures for you, and with the seat backs in place, we're looking at an overall cargo length of 42 inches, and then as far as the cargo opening, we're going to be sitting at 36 inches wide. Now, do be aware that it's a little bit of a narrow pass-through here, so you might have trouble loading in larger objects. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2024 Hyundai IONIQ 6, and in this test drive, we're going to be talking about quite a few different things, as you can see on the screen right now, including getting that sound level reading. But first, we want to go ahead and start by giving you a hard acceleration and seeing how fast this new IONIQ 6 is.
There we go, up to a little over 60 miles per hour. Now, obviously, we have the fast one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different versions of this model. We discussed that a little bit with the Spec'd Up, and we'll continue that discussion in here with the test drive. But to remind you of what this one is, this is the dual motor all-wheel drive version with the largest battery pack. So we're going to have a total system power on this of 320 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque. And that's certainly a lot of power to get you up to speed quickly.
Yeah. Hyundai says that this goes 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. Now, we'll go ahead and address the noise entering into the cabin first and foremost, because right now we have it on the largest change. We kind of wanted to highlight this because over the past 7 days that we've lived with this vehicle, we kind of fiddled with the noise level entering into the cabin. This largest change one.
Yeah, active sound design. You just have these different sound effects that you can pick between, and the largest setting for demonstrative purposes is very loud.
Yeah, it is.
If you want to sound like a spaceship, this certainly has that effect. We personally find it grating over a long period of time, but it is very futuristic sounding.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess if you really miss the engine noise.
This is like the a Hemi V8 of electric sounds. It's very loud.
Yeah, for sure. I think I would maybe keep it on the smallest change or off. It's a bit much for my personal liking and a bit much for video audio, that's for sure. So let's go ahead and get that off. All right. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some of the other setups that you can have with this IONIQ 6. So, of course, like Drew said, this is the most premium setup as tested today. Now, you start out with the SE standard range, which is rear drive exclusive. That only makes 149 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. The range on that is 240 miles, and it goes 0 to 60 in around 9 seconds. So that's definitely the least premium setup, but of course, it is the cheapest price point in the IONIQ 6 lineup. And that's a pretty good amount of standard range for sure. Now, you also have the long-range rear drive, which gets you 225 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. The range on that is 361 miles, which is the best range that you can get on any IONIQ 6. So if you want that rear-drive long-range model, that's going to be very impressive range figures. Really one of the only electric vehicles on the market that can rival some of the top-end models from Tesla. And then you do also have the long-range all-wheel drive, which is what we have today. So those are your three different setups when it comes to the battery capacity and sizes and stuff. And I do want to point out that standard range rear drive model does have a smaller battery. That's going to have a 53 kilowatt hour battery as compared to the other models that have the 77.4 kilowatt hour battery capacity. All right, and we're speeding up to 50 miles an hour, and I do just want to go ahead and talk about your ride quality for this IONIQ 6. Now, the ride quality on this is very good. We extensively tested it out in Phoenix, Arizona, when we tested this vehicle out initially, and after living with it for the past 7 days, I've been nothing but impressed with the ride quality. It is certainly very good, even in this limited form with the largest wheels that you can get on the IONIQ 6 lineup. I'd say it's very impressive. The seats are very comfortable. I will say you can feel a little intrusion when you go over a bridge like that, but I think overall it's very comfort focused, honestly.
For sure. Obviously a big competitor of this model is going to be Tesla Model 3. And compared to that model, this is really much more comfortable. The ride quality is smoother. That one is really quite sporty in terms of the overall dynamics. This is going more of a bridge between luxury and sporty dynamics, and I think this is a good balance.
And as with any EV, of course, an important part is the charging abilities, and the IONIQ 6 has one of the best charging setups in the entire EV game. It's an 800-volt fast charging architecture, which is very good for charging speeds. So on level 2 charging from 0 to 80%, you can do that in 6 hours and 55 minutes, and that's for the larger 77.4 kilowatt hour battery capacity. Level 3 charging, it can charge at speeds of up to 350 kilowatts, and that can go from 10 to 80% in as little as 18 minutes. You can get 65 miles of range in 5 minutes. So this is one of the fastest charging EVs on the market. So do keep that in mind when you're cross-shopping this with other EVs, is that this is very fast charging. All right, let's go ahead and get our sound level reading going 55 miles per hour. Fan speeds on 1. Official sound level reading, 51.7 decibels. That is with no noise change at all. And honestly, I'm just curious. I want to go ahead and get a sound level reading
Oh, you want to put it on large?
With the largest change.
It's going to be loud. All right, 55.
61.3, so a full 10 decibels of difference if you want to go for the largest change versus just having it completely off. So we're not crazy. It is a large difference when it comes to how much noise is entering into the cabin, but I don't have to sit here and guess how good that 51 decibel reading is, because I can go to carconfections.com and compare it to other EVs on the market and see how quiet this vehicle is. And that puts this IONIQ 6 as even quieter than what we tested out previously, and it was already the third quietest EV we've ever tested. So very impressive. This IONIQ 6 is quiet to the max when it comes to just driving down the road and the amount of noise entering into this cabin.
So I went ahead and put it into sport mode now that we're getting onto a local country road, and let's talk a little bit about the dynamics. I kind of talked or previewed it a little bit earlier when I was talking about the Model 3. But as we go around that corner, I'll just reiterate, again, this does have kind of a combination between luxury characteristics and sporty characteristics. The Model 3 is a really sharp tool when you take it out on a country road, but you're going to pay the price in terms of the overall ride quality and things like that. This is quite comfortable, and I think it does have, you know, a nice touch of sporty. This is obviously going to be quite a bit sportier than a IONIQ 5. You don't have really much body roll at all. The weight of the batteries is down low, and the steering is nice and responsive. When I get it into sport mode, you really get that immediate reaction as you go around corners. That also dials in the throttle response, so it feels even quicker when you're accelerating. And overall, it is fun to drive on a back road like this.
That's fast.
Yep. There's from a stop in sport mode, since it does feel a bit quicker in sport mode.
All right, let's go ahead and get into our airball and slam dunk. Our favorite element, our least favorite element about this IONIQ 6. Drew, do you want to kick us off with our slam dunk?
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot to like about this vehicle, but for this specific, 2024 review, we did want to, highlight one of the things that we like about that specifically, and that's that they did reduce the price. I think that is going to really help it to be more competitive with the Tesla Model 3, which also is occupying a pretty affordable price tag. So that is certainly a good thing for 2024, in addition to all the other things that we like about it.
Yeah, and as far as our airball is concerned, we are going to say we're a little disappointed that this IONIQ 6 just doesn't have some of the features from the IONIQ 5, like the relaxation seat and the head-up display. Those are two big things that this model is lacking, despite it actually costing more than the IONIQ 5. So that's just something to consider, is the fact that this model will be missing some of those really nice bougie features that the IONIQ 5 includes. And as far as the last things to mention here, the Hyundai warranty applies. So you have a 5-year 60,000-mile basic, a 10-year 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. You do also get 3 years of complimentary maintenance. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about pricing for this IONIQ 6. Now for 2024, I do have some news to share with you guys. Hyundai's actually dropped the price of this model quite substantially. So it's about $2,000 to $3,000 depending on what trim level you choose, but that's a very substantial price drop. Typically, cars only go up in price as time goes on, so certainly a good price advantage for you guys if you're looking to buy one. We're starting at $37,500 for an SE standard range rear drive, and then of course there's a lot of different trim levels. The limited all-wheel drive is going to start at $53,650. Now, of course, also keep in mind you may be able to get tax credits depending on if you buy or lease the vehicle. You will have to consult your local Hyundai dealer for specifics on that, because they do change the rules all the time, but you may also have that on the table. Now, as far as this particular model, we're sitting at about $55,000 as tested for this IONIQ 6 limited all-wheel drive. And if you're looking to buy this IONIQ 6 or any new vehicle, we want to encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, why you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price on your new model. Also, it's going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealer negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description. And guys, that's going to be where we leave off on this in-depth review of the 2024 Hyundai IONIQ 6. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. Now, why would you do that? Well, by subscribing, you help give us access to vehicles like this, where we can extensively test them out here in Kentucky for 7 days and provide you all those real-world details. So you play a very pivotal role in the content that we're able to provide you guys. Now, additionally, we want you to be a part of our Car Confections family. And if you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.